On a bright spring morning in New York, the grand mansion of Ahmed Khan buzzed with joy and excitement. This historic residence on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, a symbol of his relentless hard work and unwavering determination, was today witnessing a special celebration, the wedding of his only son, Rahat Khan. For this momentous day, Ahmed had spared no expense. In his 70 years, he had seen both triumphs and tribulations, scaled the heights of success, and faced the depths of challenges. But today, his greatest dream was coming true, the marriage of his only child. He had wished for this day to be an unforgettable moment in Rahat's life, the beginning of a new chapter filled with love. Yet, beneath this veneer of happiness, lay a deep conspiracy, a cold betrayal, which he could not yet fathom. The wedding ceremony was in full swing. Hundreds of guests mingled in the mansion's vast ballroom, their faces alight with smiles, toasting with champagne glasses. Every corner shimmered with dazzling lights, and the air was filled with the sweet fragrance of flowers. Ahmed sat beside his ailing wife, Fatima Khan. Fatima had been suffering from heart disease for several months, and though frail, she was overjoyed to be present at her son's wedding. A faint smile graced her pale face, stirring mixed emotions in Ahmed's heart, joy intertwined with deep concern. Ahmed gently squeezed Fatima's hand, his eyes reflecting profound love and an unspoken fear. He knew Fatima's life hung by a thread, and his greatest wish at this moment was for his wife's recovery and his family's peace. Suddenly, Rahat's new wife, Lena Ahmed, walked past them. Lena was breathtakingly beautiful, adorned in a shimmering white gown that enhanced her allure. Her brown hair was impeccably styled, and her blue eyes held a mysterious depth. But Ahmed's experienced gaze detected a cold cunning beneath Lena's beauty, a trait he hadn't fully grasped until now. Lena leaned towards Fatima, speaking in a manner that suggested great intimacy. A forced sympathy played on her lips, creating an unsettling feeling in Ahmed. Lena's voice was so low that Ahmed initially couldn't hear anything. However, the pallor on Fatima's face sparked suspicion in Ahmed's mind. His intuition warned him. He strained his ears, ready to catch every word. Lena whispered into Fatima's ear, "Your time is over, Mrs. Khan. We need the Florida beach house now. Rahat and I want to start our new life there." Lena's words struck Ahmed like poison. A sudden chill enveloped his heart, a profound coldness seizing him. He looked at Fatima, whose face had turned ghostly white with fear, her eyes wide as if she were caught in a nightmare. Fatima's hand trembled in his. Ahmed quickly tried to comprehend the situation. This wedding, for which he had spent nearly half of his life savings, approximately $5 million, a grand affair orchestrated by New York's finest event planners, renowned chefs and international musicians, was it all just a trap? He recalled the events of the past few months. Lena's family, who claimed to be affluent but were in dire financial straits, had suddenly entered their lives. Lena had introduced herself as a successful fashion designer, but Ahmed had never seen any proof of her work. At the time, Ahmed hadn't given it much thought, believing his son Rahat was deeply in love with Lena. He was happy in Rahat's happiness. But now, it seemed, it was all a meticulously planned drama, a heinous conspiracy. The joy of the wedding instantly turned to sorrow. Ahmed felt as if everything around him was crumbling. He realized his family had fallen victim to a massive conspiracy. Lena and her family had orchestrated this marriage to seize his assets. Was his son Rahat also involved in this plot? This question pricked at his mind like a thorn, dominating his every thought. Could his own son, whom he had raised with such care, whom he had groomed to be the heir to his business, be involved in such a vile act? This thought gnawed at him from within. Later that night, when the guests had departed and the mansion fell silent, a profound stillness descended. This silence was the calm before an impending storm. Ahmed summoned Rahat to his study. The study was Ahmed's personal sanctuary, where he made his most important life decisions. Rahat's face showed a strange restlessness, an unknown fear. He hesitated to stand before his father. Ahmed asked directly, his voice calm but firm, "Rahat, what was Lena talking about with Fatima? What about the Florida beach house? Rahat initially faltered, his eyes avoiding his father's gaze. He stared at the floor, as if trying to find an answer there. But he couldn't withstand Ahmed's stern gaze for long. In his father's eyes, he saw not just anger, but deep sorrow. Rahat lowered his head and confessed, his voice barely a whisper. Dad, Lena's family is in financial trouble. They needed some money. How much money? Ahmed asked in a calm tone, but Rahat could sense the storm brewing within him. His father's calm voice was the most terrifying. About $4 million, Rahat whispered. And I gave Lena some of Mom's medical savings as a wedding gift. Lena said it was crucial for our new life. Ahmed felt as if the sky had fallen on him. His wife Fatima's medical savings, her last resort for her treatment, which he had set aside for her well-being, Rahat had given it to Lena. He had never imagined his own son could betray him so heinously. He felt an intense pain in his heart, more agonizing than any physical wound. His son, whom he loved more than himself, was playing such a cruel game with his mother's life. And the beach house? Ahmed asked, his voice now as hard as stone, each word seemingly chiseled out. Rahat burst into tears, his eyes streaming. Dad, Lena wants you to sign the beach house over to us. She says it's our future, our love nest. Ahmed realized his son had become a mere puppet in Lena's hands. Lena's greed and cunning had blinded Rahat. All his dreams, all his hard work, his love for his family, Rahat and Lena were trying to make everything a victim of their avarice. He felt that his greatest responsibility at this moment was to protect his family, especially his ailing wife, from this danger. He knew this battle would not be easy, but he was ready. He would have to make them pay the price for this betrayal, but in a different way. He would teach them a lesson they would never forget. A new fire of resolve ignited in his eyes. Ahmed Khan knew that to navigate this situation, he had to act with a cool head. Emotional reactions would not suffice. Throughout his long business career, he had learned that maintaining composure and adopting the right strategy were essential, even in the most challenging circumstances. He summoned his trusted assistant, Sarah. Sarah had worked with Ahmed for over 20 years. She was not just an assistant but almost a member of Ahmed's family. Her loyalty was unquestionable. Ahmed instructed her to gather detailed information about Lena Ahmed and her family. He told Sarah, Sarah, I want you to uncover every single detail about Lena and her family, their past, their current financial status, their social connections, everything. No information should be left out. Sarah looked at Ahmed's face and understood his firm resolve. She nodded in agreement and promptly began her work. Sarah quickly got to work. Within a few days, she brought back some preliminary information about Lena's family. Lena's father, David Ahmed, was once a successful real estate businessman who had undertaken large projects in various areas of New Jersey. However, his business had collapsed over the past few years. Since the 2008 economic recession, his business had never recovered. Their family was burdened by massive debts. Their penthouse in Manhattan, their castle in New Jersey, and even their private jet were all mortgaged. But this information was not enough. Ahmed wanted to delve deeper. He knew Lena's intentions were more profound and sinister. He hired an experienced private investigator named Daniel Brooks. Daniel was a former FBI agent, known for solving complex cases. His sharp intellect and relentless perseverance had brought him success in countless difficult investigations. Daniel's office was located on a quiet street in Brooklyn, where he conducted his confidential work. Ahmed tasked him with thoroughly investigating Lena and her family's financial situation, their past, and their current relationships. Ahmed told Daniel, Daniel, I want you to follow Lena's every move. Her phone calls, her emails, her social media activities, everything. I want to know who she's talking to, what she's planning. Daniel listened attentively and promised to begin the work. Daniel Brooks commenced his investigation. He began examining Lena's family's bank statements, credit reports, business transactions, and social media activities. He started recording Lena's phone calls and tracking her emails. He contacted Lena's old friends and gathered information from them. After several weeks of diligent work, Daniel presented Ahmed with a detailed report. The report was a thick file, each page revealing the dark side of Lena and her family. The report was horrifying. Daniel confirmed that Lena's family was drowning in approximately $4 million of debt. Multiple properties were mortgaged, and they were on the verge of bankruptcy. Their bank accounts were almost empty, and their credit scores were abysmal. Even more shocking was the information that Lena, during a phone conversation with a close friend, had stated that she married Rahat solely to seize his father's property. Lena's friend, named Jessica, lived in Los Angeles, California. Lena had told Jessica, "Once I get my hands on Ahmed Khan's property, I'll kick Rahat out. All of his father's assets will be mine. And then I'll move to California to my old boyfriend, Mark Johnson." Mark is now running a successful startup in Los Angeles. Daniel had also obtained an audio recording of that conversation, which served as irrefutable proof of Lena's betrayal. He had found similar information from Lena's emails, where she discussed her future plans with Mark Johnson. Ahmed was stunned after reading the report. Lena was playing such a heinous game with his son's life. Lena's cruelty towards his ailing wife, her exploitation of Rahat's innocence. All of it ignited a fire of revenge in Ahmed's heart. A deep hatred and rage were born within him. He knew this betrayal demanded a fitting response. But he wanted to respond in a way that would make Lena and her family regret their actions and bow their heads in shame before society. He decided not to confront them privately, but to expose their true colors in front of everyone. This revenge would be calculated and public, serving as the greatest humiliation of their lives. He knew the game was now in his hands, and he would play it in a way that no one could stop him. A new fire of resolve burned in his eyes, merging with his long business experience to take on a terrifying form. He thought to himself, "Lena Ahmed, you have started a game with the wrong person." Ahmed Khan knew that to expose Lena and her family, he needed a suitable stage. He decided that Rahat's post-wedding reception would be that stage. It was a grand event, where prominent figures of New York, the business community, and relatives from both families would be present. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, known for its opulent ambience, was chosen for this occasion. Ahmed wanted everyone to witness the consequences of their misdeeds, for society to bear witness to their shame and humiliation. On the day of the reception, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was ablaze with dazzling lights. The light streaming from the chandeliers cast a magical glow over the entire hall. Guests began to arrive one by one, dressed in expensive attire, their faces beaming with smiles. Influential businessmen, politicians, artists, and members of New York's high society were present. Rahat and Lena greeted the guests with smiles, their faces reflecting a triumphant joy. Lena wore a shimmering red gown that further enhanced her beauty. She secretly thought that today she was about to become the queen of Ahmed Khan's empire. They had no idea what awaited them, that their smiles were about to turn into sorrow in an instant. Ahmed calmly observed everything. There was no change in his expression, but his eyes held a firm resolve, a cold fire of revenge. He instructed his trusted assistant, Sarah, to ensure the final preparations were in order. At one point during the event, as everyone finished dinner and awaited dessert, Ahmed ascended the stage. In his hand was a microphone. His mere presence brought a pin-drop silence to the ballroom. Everyone quieted down, eager to hear what a personality like Ahmed Khan had to say. Every word he spoke carried weight. Every decision he made was far-reaching. Ahmed first congratulated his son Rahat and daughter-in-law Lena. He wished them a happy married life. His voice held a strange coolness, which only those who knew him intimately could discern. Rahat and Lena stood at the front of the stage, their faces beaming with proud smiles. They thought Ahmed might announce a new property in their name or speak of increasing their business responsibilities. Then Ahmed said, "Today, I have brought a special gift for you all. It is for my son and daughter-in-law, and it carries an important message for their future lives." Everyone grew curious. Rahat and Lena exchanged glances, a hint of confusion on their faces. They thought Ahmed might announce the transfer of some property to them. Their eyes held a glint of greed. Ahmed gestured to his assistant, Sarah. Sarah started a video on a large screen. The video was a recording of Lena's secret conversation, collected by Daniel Brooks. As the video began, a tense anticipation spread through the ballroom. In the video, Lena was heard talking to her close friend Jessica on the phone. Lena was discussing how she would seize Ahmed Khan's property, how she would use Rahat, and how she would leave him once she had the assets. Her voice was filled with shameless greed and cunning. The video played on. Though initially indistinct, Lena's voice gradually became clear. A pin-drop silence fell over the ballroom. The guests watched the video in shock. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and disgust. Rahat's face turned pale, his body trembling. Lena's face showed disbelief and fear. She couldn't understand what was happening. Her world seemed to be collapsing in an instant. All her plans, all her cunning, were being exposed in public. Towards the end of the video, Lena was heard saying, "Once the beach house is mine, I'll kick Rahat out. All of his father's assets will be mine. And then I'll move to California to my old boyfriend, Mark Johnson." Mark is now running a successful startup in Los Angeles. As the video ended, murmurs erupted in the ballroom. Guests exchanged glances, their eyes filled with disgust and disbelief. All the color drained from Rahat's face. He looked at Lena, his eyes filled with deep sorrow and anger. Lena stood with her head bowed, her face flushed with shame. She wanted to flee, but her feet seemed glued to the floor. Ahmed took the microphone again. His voice was calm but firm, every word clear and weighty. "You all have seen Lena Ahmed's true intentions, my daughter-in-law. She has shown cruelty towards my ailing wife, exploited my son's innocence, and orchestrated a heinous conspiracy to seize my family's assets." He looked at Rahat, his eyes holding a mix of emotions: anger, sorrow, and disappointment. "Rahat, you are my son, but you have succumbed to your greed. You gave Lena your mother's medical savings, which was an ultimate betrayal. You put your mother's life at risk, simply by trusting a deceiver." Ahmed took a deep breath. His voice grew even firmer. "From today, I am revoking Rahat Khan's inheritance rights to the family business and all my properties. All my assets, including the luxurious beach house in Florida, will be transferred to a charitable foundation that will work for the welfare of the sick and helpless. This foundation will be named after my wife, Fatima Khan Charitable Foundation." This announcement caused an uproar in the ballroom. Rahat cried out, his voice filled with despair, "Dad, you can't do this. It's my right." Ahmed looked at him with a stern gaze. "I can, Rahat. I am the owner of this property, and I will decide its future. You have lost your rights through your actions." He gestured towards Lena and Rahat and said, "I am asking both of you to leave this house within 24 hours. You are no longer part of my family. You have no right to stay in this mansion." Lena began to cry, but her tears held no sympathy, only anger and frustration. Guests looked at them with disgust. Ahmed Khan had completed his revenge. It was a calculated public exposure that would force Lena and her family to pay the ultimate price for their actions. Their social standing, their future, everything crumbled in an instant. Ahmed knew this decision was difficult, but it was essential to protect his family's honor and integrity. He felt a strange peace in his heart, knowing he had fulfilled his duty. Ahmed Khan's announcement was not confined to the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. It spread like wildfire throughout New York's high society. The next morning, every major newspaper carried headlines about this sensational event. Family feud in the Khan Empire, daughter-in-law accused of betrayal, scandal in New York's elite society, Lena Ahmed's true colors exposed, inheritance revoked, Ahmed Khan's stern decision. Such headlines filled the newspaper pages. Television channels also extensively covered the news. The financial scandals of Lena Ahmed's family and their deception became front-page news. David Ahmed's real estate business, which was already struggling, completely collapsed after this scandal. His long-standing reputation was shattered in an instant. Banks began to pressure them for loan repayments, and investors started withdrawing their funds. David Ahmed's office closed down, and his employees lost their jobs. Their social standing was utterly ruined. Those who once sought their company, who invited them to their parties, now began to avoid them. Lena's family became so socially disgraced that it became impossible for them to remain in New York. They were forced to leave the city, heading towards an uncertain future. Their luxurious lifestyle ended in an instant, and they found refuge in an unknown city, where they would have to start life anew. But the stain of their past continued to haunt them. Rahat's life also changed overnight. Deprived of his father's property and a victim of Lena's deception, he became distraught. The luxurious lifestyle he was accustomed to vanished in an instant. His friends began to avoid him, as no one wanted to associate with the son of a deceiver. His phone went silent, and his social media accounts became inactive. He saw himself as a failed and betrayed man in the eyes of society. Rahat had to start life anew, from scratch. He initially found a small job as a waiter in a restaurant, which was a profound humiliation for him. But he had no other choice. He worked hard to stand on his own feet. This incident taught him many lessons: the consequences of greed, the value of relationships, and the importance of integrity. He realized that his father's decision might have been harsh, but it was essential to bring him back to the right path. He wanted to apologize to his father, but he lacked the courage. He knew that even if his father forgave him, he would not be able to forgive himself. He also wanted to apologize to his mother, but her illness made him feel even more guilty. Rahat understood his mistake, but he had a long way to go to rectify it. Ahmed Khan and Fatima Khan felt a strange peace after this incident. Fatima's physical condition improved somewhat, as a huge burden had been lifted from her mind. Her face no longer held that fear and anxiety. Instead, there was a serene smile. Ahmed sat beside his wife, holding her hand, and said, "We did the right thing, Fatima. We protected our family." Fatima nodded with a gentle smile. Their relationship deepened. Their love grew stronger. Ahmed had transferred all his property to a charitable foundation that worked for the sick and helpless. This organization was named after his wife, Fatima Khan Charitable Foundation. Through this, he ensured that the fruits of his labor would be used for the welfare of society. This foundation began donating to various hospitals in New York, providing free medical care to impoverished patients. Fatima herself began actively participating in the foundation's work, which gave her a new lease on life. Ahmed Khan realized that true legacy was not about wealth, but about how one lives, what values one upholds, and how one protects those they love. He had protected his integrity and his family's honor. In the final chapter of his life, he found peace and contentment, knowing that he had done the right thing and that the price of betrayal had been paid correctly. His story remained a cautionary tale in New York society, how devastating the consequences of greed and deception could be. His decision not only protected his family, but also sent a powerful message to society that honesty and morality are paramount. Ahmed Khan spent his last days peacefully with his wife Fatima, surrounded by love and respect. Their story continued to be told from generation to generation, becoming a legend. Approximately 5 years after this incident, Rahat started a small business. He had learned from his past and wanted to prove himself through hard work. He went to apologize to his father, and Ahmed forgave him. Rahat also visited his mother, and Fatima welcomed him warmly. Rahat was now an honest and hardworking businessman who had learned from his past mistakes. He understood that true happiness lay not in wealth, but in honesty and love. No further news was heard of Lena Ahmed. She had gone to her old boyfriend in California, but Mark Johnson did not accept her. He had learned of Lena's deception and removed her from his life. Lena was left alone and destitute, all her dreams shattered. Her greed had led her down a path from which there was no return. Her fate was the consequence of her actions, which she would have to bear for the rest of her life. Ahmed Khan breathed his last peacefully, his head resting on his wife's lap. His life was an example of honesty, hard work, and love. The Fatima Khan Charitable Foundation he left behind continues to bring smiles to thousands of faces today. His story proves that the price of betrayal is high, and the reward of integrity is priceless.